Hello everyone, it's John Easton again here from Maximizer Software. How are you today? Firstly, I'd like to begin by thanking you for taking time out of your busy day to spend with me. This is a very interesting topic that Maximizer has been presenting a series of webinars on now related to the millennials. And today we're going to speak about how to communicate effectively with your millennial clients. So my name is John Easton. I've been with Maximizer now 19 years. I'm the director of the wealth management product line here at Maximizer Software. And I've been working with a team of both financial advisors and internal staff members to bring a product called the Maximizer Wealth Manager to the market. And we've been now selling it exclusively to financial advisors both in the insurance and the investment industry across North America and have over 1,000 teams using it. The agenda for today is how we tie in the use of CRM really to our communication with our millennials. But more importantly, how are we communicating with millennials on a regular basis? And what makes communicating with them different and also challenging than communicating with the clients that you've typically been working with for however long it is you've been in this industry. We're going to speak about what are the best channels for getting through to millennials. We're going to talk about how to generate content that's specific to millennials and how to capture their attention. And we're also going to be talking about really just tips about how to create millennial-friendly tones in your communications and how to incorporate millennials into your line of business in a regular basis. Before I say too much about how to communicate with millennials, for those of you that haven't attended previous webinars I've put on, I'd like to remind you a little bit about who the millennial cohort is, if you will, and what makes them quite a bit different than the Generation X, the Generation Y, and the baby boomers, all of which you've been working with up until this point in time in your careers. So they're the youngest generation today. Their average age is between 17 and 37. Today they represent 2.3 billion worldwide. In just 3 more years, they're going to represent 50% of the workforce. By 2025, they're going to represent 75% of the workforce. And they may not be as wealthy as boomers are today, but they definitely hold the key to tomorrow's wealth. And I think we all recognize that. By knowing what makes them unique, you can certainly better tailor your communications to their needs, right? And their needs are different from the generations previous to them, right? There's qualities that distinguish them from previous generations, and you're looking at a good list of them right now. They're spenders, not savers. They've lived through several economic periods which were pretty bouncy for them and their parents. They're the most technology-savvy generation ever. They're fully early adopters of all technology and not afraid of any of it. They're by far and away the most educated generation. They're living with their parents longer because they're carrying more debt than any generation before them. Right? They're very much socially conscious investors when they're investing, but they're interested in their own well-being and in maintaining good health. They've delayed the marriage, the home, the family, of course, because they're the most educated and they're carrying the most debt. Right? But they're the very first generation that's had direct access to perfect and pure information than anyone before them. Right? So they're by far and away the smartest generation. Interestingly, they see their parents as their own primarily their own financial advisors. Their values are a little different. They're more specific to short-term wants. They're willing to finance their debt. Right? They are somewhat credit dependent naturally. They have conservative attitudes, and they hold larger cash reservoirs. And all of those lead up to also a generation that's a little bit hesitant to invest in equities. Knowing all this helps you and those in your office, when you communicate with millennials, understand that they're a little bit different than the generations before them, and they do want to be communicated differently. So what's the best channel to use? Oh, did I say that they're tethered to their phones? Absolutely tethered to their phones. Right? If you want to communicate with a millennial, you have to communicate with the channel they enjoy. There's no two ways about it, and that's mobile, mobile, mobile. Millennials spend over 2 hours a day on their mobile phones. On average, they check their devices 10 times an hour, so one every 6 minutes. I have sources that say they check their phones almost 30 times an hour. That's once every 2 minutes. Right? So they are glued to their phones. So it definitely makes sense. It's the best way to communicate with them. And really, don't try to fight against it. Use it to your advantage. I'll let you know that the person that worked with me to help me write the material that I'm presenting to you today is a millennial. And his insight is definitely on point with everything else I read about millennials. So it's interesting to work with him and see his viewpoint firsthand. They're known for not wanting to meet in person or talk on the phone. So I find a lot of irony and humor in the fact that it's mobile, 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 but they don't want to talk to you on that phone. They want to text you on that phone. They want to read whatever it is you send them when it's convenient for them. And picking up the phone and saying hi is as passe as it can be for a millennial. I think it's funny that some office or some workplaces are beginning to dispense with the office phone, right? They're not putting a phone in everybody's desk, right? They're done through the computers and they're done through the mobile phone. That's it. There's no more Telrad. Dated myself there. So where's the good news on this? An email and a text is actually more efficient for you, because I know and you know what it takes to actually break through to get somebody on telephone nowadays. How many of us look at our phones when they ring, look at the name and go, love to talk to you, not a good time. Right? Love to talk to you, not a good time. So not don't want to talk to you, but I want to communicate with you when I'm ready to communicate with you, when I'm prepared, which is different than ready. Ready can be just mentally. Prepared is about I know what I need to know beforehand and I have what I need in front of me to speak to you when we communicate, which is almost never the case when you pick up the phone and phone somebody on their end. They're not ready to talk to you. And so you got to think about that. Right? Use text, you'll get a quicker response. I've been using emails for years to send to people to say, hey, would it be a good time to talk X, Y, and Z times in the day? Right? Or would there be a better time, or is there a time I can reach out to you? And I find that much more effective than leaving a message for somebody. Because what does a message mean? A message is, oh, you phoned somebody, you left a voice communication, and the expectation is they're going to phone you back? Well, that's 20 years ago, or maybe 10. But it's becoming less and less and less the way people want to communicate back. So use text, use email, if it's more detailed. Right? My way, what I mentioned a couple of years ago of sending an email, is now changing. The people I know that I have text numbers for, or phone, or mobile numbers for, excuse me, right? I'm texting them saying the exact same thing. When would be a good time to speak? Right? Is there a good time to have a meeting? When could I come in and see you? When could you come in and see me? Right? And that's really what we're trying to say half the time when we're making those phone calls anyways. And stay top of mind with regular but short emails. And what that means is every advisor I know has to become a thought leader in their space. You need to be putting out information that's relevant to the groups of investors you have. So they need to be topical, and they need to be targeted at the right age group. So what you're sending to somebody who's 28 is not what you're sending to somebody who's 58. So a quick tie into the CRM is knowing the age of your clients and bringing up lists of clients based on different age demographics and sending emails or sending messages, as the case may be, to the different age demographics that's relevant to them. Right? Not sending one email blast about insurance to all of your clients, because that doesn't make sense. A certain age group, your youngest clients likely are underinsured. Your oldest clients are probably have all the insurance they need, and they're starting to wind down their insurance need, and they're probably more interested in seeing information on estate planning or estate disposition. So what do you use voice and face for? Special occasions, right? Important, essential conversations and meetings. They'll be appreciated more as well. And also start considering the video call. There's no reason you can't do a face-to-face with somebody over a computer. You see each other. You see each other's surroundings. You know if you got out of bed and got dressed that day, right? It can be as professional as you want to make it, right? The background is your office. The background is your backyard, right? It can be whatever you want. But in doing so, you're facilitating a much easier time and place to meet for your clients, right? You're also saving yourself time and you're saving yourself money. Traveling around, I know a number of advisors that fly, and they'll go to one part of British Columbia for a month or 3 weeks, and then they'll go to, so let's say it's the interior, then they'll go over to the island for a week, then they'll come back to the lower mainland, and then they'll head off to Alberta because they've got clients in Alberta, and they'll spend 2 weeks out there. Now I also know advisors, again, that really look forward to this part of their business. The traveling matters to them. Meeting their clients face to face matters to them. But you don't always have to meet your client face-to-face. A little CRM tip in there. Use your CRM to record which video app is best for each of your clients. Which of your clients work with what better? Right? So are they using Skype? Are they using FaceTime? Are they using something else? You've got to be thinking about these things as an advisor. Your communication methods are changing. What you're also saying is changing. And when you need to communicate and about what is also changing. Maxing out on the mobile channel. What does that mean? The most highly active group on social media, 73% of millennials access social networking every single day. That's 42% of Gen X's, 24% of the boomers. So we've long recommended asking each of your clients how they wish to receive communications. We've had a do not call or do not spam fields inside Maximizer forever. Right? What's the preferred method of communication? Now what you're needing to do is broaden those options to not just only include email, but also add text and which social media channels. You need to record that information. Yourself, having a website is extremely important. Being responsive through your website is extremely important. And the readable on mobile is a given. You've got to start building sites today. I think 65% of sites are viewed through mobile devices today, if I remember my stat. Right? So 2/3 of visitors to your website are doing so through a mobile device. And if you're not mobile ready, and if your clients are stretching their fingers and squeezing their fingers to move around your pages to read everything that's on it, they're going to think about you as not really in tune with the way the market's gone. Not going, gone. Be seen on social media as well. And that doesn't mean you've got to be the Facebook champion and putting up pictures of your children every day. Quite the opposite. Right? You should have a private life, but you should have to have a business life as well. And your business life is best still today represented on LinkedIn. Who your business is and what you do, and what your skill sets are, but also as a LinkedIn profile on yourself. Who you are as an advisor, who you're following, what groups you belong to, what you're saying, what you're liking, right? That's all visible in social media. And your millennial clients are going to want to see advisors who are active in some way, shape, or form, that they're at least showing that they're current. Because if you're not current with what's going on and can't show that you're current, they're going to find somebody who is. And I haven't yet, till this moment, said even the word close to a robo-advisor who is all over social media and all over the internet. Right? And all over about being convenient and easily accessed. So your job as an advisor to keep that millennial client is very much going to be communicate and how you communicate and do it well. Right? Sending links to videos and other useful information is what you need to be doing. Right? If you're not yourself commenting and reading relevant information, you should be thinking, who in my database? A good example is where are my clients in the financial advice life cycle? So which of my clients who are under 30 that have one or more children that don't have insurance? A real simple search if you had 3 data points in your CRM. Clients under 30, don't have insurance, have children. Bring up that list. And what would you send to that client? It's not like you phone up and say, hey, you need to buy insurance today, but you could send them some nice videos or some nice links to useful information on insurance for young couples that are just starting out. If you're not doing that, they're finding that information somewhere else, maybe. But if they are, they're probably going to look to that source and that resource as somebody more credible than you who's not providing that information to them, and you're going to lose that client. Last point, be sure you know how each client wishes to receive communication. I've said it a couple times. I can't understate that, because if you're communicating the wrong way, they're not getting your communication or you're annoying them. On your side, be accessible. So what does being accessible mean? On demand, always on lifestyle means service. Service, 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 and they're expected to respond outside of business hours. Our statistics clearly show what time our trial downloads take place in our business. Right? Our statistics clearly show us who's visiting our website at what times a day. Our website visits are not confined to 9 to 5. In fact, quite a bit of the prospecting that takes place on our own websites is clearly taking place after business hours. So business people are researching business decisions on their own time, if you want to say it that way, but definitely after 9 to 5 time. So in the advisor's practice, you need to be in a similar vein of thinking. Stay connected to your office and your records no matter where you are. Well, how do you do that if you have a CRM that's installed on a desktop computer that sits in your office? You don't, right? You're not connected to your office or in your client records, no matter where you are. If you don't have a mobile solution where you can not have a laptop that's accessing the internet to your cloud solutions or your in-house on-premise solution, you can't just be tethered to your laptop either. You've got to be mobile. So you need a CRM that has a mobile application to it as well. And you yourself, the only way that you're going to be able to interact with your clients around the clock is to have mobile solutions into your CRMs, both through the laptop and the desktop, right? And that's going to allow you to have the tools both to look up client information, be as informed as you need to be at any given moment for any given conversation, and allowing you to respond quickly. Because really, that's what the client's looking for, is a quick response. And the quick response might be, I'm looking into that for you. But no response is deadly in this business, as you all know. Right? So for those of you that are looking at CRMs, very much consider, right, am I going to be able to access this information 24 hours a day, no matter where I am in the world? And can I do it from any type of device? So we talked a little about the fact you need to communicate and the ways you need to communicate. What about your content? Great insight in this part. Millennials are checking their phones anywhere from 10 to 30 times an hour, anywhere from every 2 to 6 minutes, and they're definitely a multitasking generation. They're definitely also processing a lot of information very quickly. I think we've all heard the term short attention span, right? My children have it, but they're children. They're supposed to have it. Millennials have it too, but they have it for a different reason. Because they're constantly multitasking, they're constantly thinking about many things, and they're able to do so because they have many sources of relevant in-time information at their fingertips. So they're trying to process all that at the same time. So they naturally do have a short attention span. So when you communicate with them, be concise, without a doubt. Remember, they are bombarded with communications. If you want to get through to them, you've got to get through the clutter, and we all know what clutter means in our businesses. How many emails a day do we get? How many of them are unsolicited, even though there is an anti-spam law? Anti-spam only applies to Canadian businesses, so we're still getting hit by businesses all around the world. When you communicate, you need to capture the attention. Right? Short, concise, to the point messages. So more frequent, short messages are better for this group than infrequent, long ones. Send lots of short, quick hits, fast-paced information. Millennials do want detailed plans and instructions, but be sure it's to the point. Right? Link to it. Right? Vary your formats. I think it's important as well. Right? Some is text-based, some is images, some is videos. We see a very high correlation between prospects that come to our website that go through, read an article, then watch a video, then reach out to someone in our sales team. Right? So it does take a couple of interactions sometimes to get the right response. But what's important is that you're varying it. Include visuals where you can, visuals of yourself. I know advisors that are starting to videotape themselves and put video recordings of themselves speaking about something relevant on their website. So they don't have to deliver these presentations in person all the time to each and every one of their clients when the time is right for one of those clients to hear that message. Right? They can make those messages available in a 3, 5, 7 minute video, and then they can just say, hey, I know we were talking about this, or have you ever thought about estate disposition, or have you started to speak to your children about the will that you've been creating and the estate disposition that's taking place inside the family? Like, when is the time to have that conversation? So it's very important that you have many different types of articles, if you will, also available to you. Make your communication relevant. Right? It's relevant to them. It's got to be personalized. The day has got to be long gone of something that goes out and says hello, comma. Right? It's got to be hi, John, and Bob, Mary, Frank. This is an interesting point. Only send links of information you know the person wants to know about. So some of you are probably asking, well, how do I know what people want to know about? From a CRM point of view, it's very easy. It's in the CRM. Right? Some of it is very specific. You know that they're married. You know that they're of a certain age. Here's an easy one. You search the database for all of your clients that have children that are between the ages of 13 and 15. So now you've got a cohort of soon-to-be millennials, if you will. You then invite all of them to a golf course, and you put on a seminar for them with 2 different speakers. One is going to be a counselor who helps pick a post-secondary education. The second counselor is going to be how to pick a post-secondary education program. Right? The third detail you'd look for in your CRM is that there's an RESP present for each of these children. So you've got children that are going to be going to university, and you're going to be the person that introduces education to them on how to pick a university and how to pick a university program. Right? What this is doing is you're giving them very relevant information. You're also introducing them to some financial concepts that are going to need to stick with them for the rest of their lives. Right? But it's going to begin first with, how do I make sure that they spend that RESP? How do they stay within the financial constraints of that RESP? How are they picking programs that make the most sense for them and their families? Right? But you have been able to take the initiative to speak to them in a very relevant way by using information that you've been storing inside the CRM. So again, it's impossible to sub-segment your clients without having sub-segmentation type information at your fingertips. And remember, these are very tech-savvy people. So you can, and they value technology type solutions. Right? So when you're presenting information to them through technology, they really, really appreciate it as well. Right? So online calculators, online tools, all very valuable, all help drive home points you're trying to make, but you don't have to be so verbose and speak all those points all the time. Using stories, anecdotes, right? Set yourself up and your clients for success, right? So what does that mean? Well, the millennials case, this is a generation that's been entertained their entire life, right? And they don't really want to have to work hard for information. They've never had to. You have a question, you Google it, you have an answer within moments. Right? I'm the smartest person in the world in my family, so my children used to think. They now know who Google is. But every question my child ever had, either of them, I was able to answer, and I go on the computer more often than not. So entertain them and don't make them work too hard. Right? Stories and anecdotes are a great way to hammer home a message without appearing preachy, right? Or didactic, which apparently, according to Niall and company, is a real no-no for communicating with this group. Right? They don't like to be preached to. Right? It's also a great way to convey abstract concepts. Translate these ideas into realistic and convey them into accessible situations. Right? I think this is one of the strengths that advisors have always had, is they tell great stories, or the ones that most of the ones I have met and continue to meet do. Right? And they do use their stories to be message driven. So this will work with the millennial group just as well as it has with the previous generations. But be personal. It's one of the most important things. Be personal. Your stories need to be real. Right? And any of you that have been in this business for any length of time have lots of real stories. When it comes to your value proposition, and this is quite important, it needs to be tailored, and it needs to be tailored. It needs to be a little bit different than what they're hearing online for certain. The personalized strategy is very, very important. You need to be open. You need to be transparent about the offering. CRM2 obviously is helping with this as well, and fee disclosure. You need to be able to explain to the millennials what makes you and your brand unique, right? And you yourself have to be able to do so in a way that's simple and yet, draws attention to you as being the advisor who helps, right? Not the advisor who just points them to, a website that has all the tools. You've got to be there to actually communicate as well. Whether you're providing a full service or a pared down offering, right? Be clear, be honest. Millennials really, really like transparency. There's no doubt about it. They've grown up with the concept of branding. They get it. Their brand is colors and logos, but play to what makes you unique. Whether it's your specialized knowledge about the financial needs of people in their industry, or your own special interest, or your charitable passion, but find something and some specialized knowledge you have that resonates with them. Right? So I know advisors that specialize in socially conscious investing today, and they're attracting a lot of millennials. They tell me specifically, until I started speaking about socially responsible ETFs and socially responsible investing, right, I wasn't attracting any millennials, right? And now I am. And the only difference is I started to talk that way, or I started to put out information in that way. Examples of what millennials like, and as I've been giving to you, you need to pay attention to, and you need to feed that back to them. The tone is also important, right? How you say is important, when you say it's important, but being indirect, being overly diplomatic actually backfires with this generation. They appreciate open and honest and communication that's valued. They also appreciate being asked questions and not, so I guess, again, speaking to the don't be preachy, right? Ask them what they need, and they will be upfront with you about what they want and what they need and how they'd like you to deliver it to them. And I think these are great points as well. Specifically on the tone, lighten up. Millennials do not value old school ways of business. They do not appreciate corporate. They do not appreciate stuffy. They do not appreciate rule driven. Interesting. The old way of doing business and communicating valued authority and top down approach and discipline and seriousness are not appreciated. Right? The old rules were to avoid humor, avoid cleverness in your marketing and communications. I'm being told not so anymore. I'm told a little wit and not a completely serious tone, provided it's tasteful, provided it's politically correct, of course. It certainly may hit the mark better with this generation. So consider that. Consider speaking a little differently and lightening up. This generation, more than any generation before, is also as collaborative. They want to be coached rather than preach, right? They value giving it their all, which I like, but only if it's in a fun and a positive work environment. And we see that. We see how many of the younger offices today that start up, especially technology offices, what's a common theme you find in all of them, right? It's open, it's fun, it's positive, it's bright, right? And it's together. It's not separate offices for everybody. They're working together, and they want to work together, and they're demonstrating that in their office environments, right? So wit, subtle humor, actually appreciated, right? And even if you're educating, even if you're being an informer, you want to act more like a partner than an authority figure. And I think there's a great point in there to drive home as well. So through the presentation, I've dropped in a few points about how CRM can really help you more effectively communicate with your millennial clients. Right? It's really not much different than how you should be using a CRM today. And if you're not using a CRM, I don't know how you keep track of anything you're doing with any of your clients, because paper doesn't really cut it, and of course Outlook doesn't either. You can't sell a paper record book, and so your succession strategy is certainly suspect. There's lots of different CRM softwares on the market, as you all know. What sets Maximizer CRM apart from many of the other ones is we've actually made a financial advisor version of our software, right? And it's specialized, and it's been created by a series of advisors that have worked with our team to make this product. So it's not something we dreamed up. It's something advisors said, this is what your CRM needs to do. So we have hundreds of specialized fields. We have 40 different workflows to complete the common actions and action plans that take place in your office. We have a lot of different searches that help us find which of your clients you should be working with next. We know the most common question asked in your office is which client do I need to do what with next, right? And how do I decide how I'm prioritizing who I'm working with? So being able to first have a lot of fields to track client information on, and then having searches in place that help you bring up the segmentation of the clients. I gave examples of clients that have children, clients that don't have insurance policies, clients that do have insurance policies, and you're matching details of their life with the products and services that they do and don't have. You're in a very powerful position to not only provide better service than you are already, but also upsell on new products that they do not have that you can recognize. In the CRM sense of the world, and in Maximizers or anyone, the correspondence and communication and the tracking and recording of such is of paramount, to the value of your business, but also just staying organized. Right? So whether it's email or text or videos or however they want to be communicated with, you're recording that in the CRM, right? And you're sending all the emails that you're sending and all the replies, they're automatically being saved into the CRM. Our cloud solution is the preferred solution of the over 1,000 teams that use Maximizer's financial advisor version today. And the reason for that is quite simple. They want access to the client information, whether they're at home, they themselves are at home, or on vacation, or traveling from one location to another. And they want that access both through a laptop where they can get a bigger visual experience, but they also want a simpler solution through mobility where they can access all the same information. And one of the, I think, the most commanding features in our mobile CRM is the ability to speak directly into every single field against every single record in Maximizer, including speaking your notes directly into the product. So advisors like that a lot. I do as well. I do a lot of voicing into the notes on my mobile device. And the reason I do it is I don't type very well with my thumbs, but I can certainly speak 4 or 5 quick sentences, save that to the client record, and carry on with my day. So I should have at the outset said that we were going to take about 40 minutes for this webinar today, and I do want to be cognizant of everyone's time. The one question I'm constantly asked is, we're spending a lot of time educating advisors on various aspects of the use of CRM and the beneficial use of CRM for their business. As it ties to the millennials, and for those of you that have sat through any of my other webinars where I speak about millennials, I've got one statistic, and it really just talks about if you don't communicate with the millennials, right, and if you don't find a way to break through with them, this is us, right? 2/3 of the children fire their parents' advisor after they inherit their parents' wealth. And this is solely because the advisors did not find a way to break through to the millennials, whether they were the children of the client or whether they were the heir of the estate. Right? So it is paramount that not only do recognize that these persons exist in the families, especially when they're young, but you find ways to communicate with them. And once you have reached out to them, you find ways to continue to communicate with them. Thank you very much for everyone that has listened to me today. I really appreciate it. I am going to spend a little time with questions here at the end. If you have any, you can start typing those into the questions area of the interface. You can also type them into the chat, and I can respond there also. But for those of you who do need to go, thank you very much. I appreciate the time you spent with me today. If you check back, we will be putting on another webinar, I would think, within about 4 weeks, and it'll be on another interesting topic similar to this one. The first question is, I'm not using Maximizer today. I'm using a competitive product. Is there a way to get information out of other competitors' products into Maximizer? Good question, thank you. Maximizer's been making Maximizer for 30 years, so we've been competing against the likes of Act and Goldmine, Salesforce more recently, Microsoft CRM, all the ones I've mentioned so far and others. We have written import utilities that allow us to pull all of the client information, notes, documents, emails, any custom fields of information, and we line that up against the relevant fields inside Maximizer. And the costs for doing that vary. We normally will have a look at the database directly with yourselves on the phone, get an understanding on how you're using that competitive product, and then we can give you a price directly. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. The next one asks, is it possible to get a copy of the presentation sent out after? Yes, we will be sending a copy of this and the slide deck out to everyone that's been in attendance. Thank you very much. The next one says, I use Maximizer today, but not the Wealth Manager version. How difficult is it to upgrade? This is a good question, Suzanne. We have over 1,000 teams that use the financial advisor version of Maximizer today. Just over 300 of those teams were using Maximizer, and they moved up and moved on to our financial advisor platform. In all cases, we're able to get all of your Maximizer information out of your existing Maximizer. So every piece of information anywhere in the software comes, and we line that back up inside Maximizer. And then and that includes any custom fields that you've made, or any searches that you've built, or any custom dashboards or favorite lists. All of those configuration additions that you have made to your own Maximizer, those are also preserved and carried up into the Wealth Management Edition as well. Good question, thank you. Do we support VoIP? Oh, good question. Yes, Maximizer's got a setting inside where you can tell Maximizer the name of your IP-based phone, and once you have done so, then whenever you press call inside Maximizer or make a call, it'll bring up a dialog that brings up your phone system, if I will. And once you've clicked connect, we bring up our note dialog, which allows you to keep track of the entire conversation, which you'll then say. We also keep track of how long that call took place. So when you hang up, we record the hang up. You can continue writing the note, and then you save the note directly against the client record. Good question, thank you. I use this is the last question I see so far. So if anybody has any others, if you'd like to enter them in, that's great. We use Outlook for our calendar. Does Maximizer's calendar sync with Outlook? It does, yes. So we're able to sync Maximizer appointments and tasks and contacts into Outlook, and then we also synchronize appointments and tasks and contacts out of. So it's a two-way sync, and we'll keep those updated on a regular basis. We also have an Outlook plugin that allows us to save emails directly against client records. So you can mark a client record once in Outlook, and every time you ever receive an email or send an email to that person, a copy of that email is automatically saved into Maximizer. That's one of the compliance features we put in a couple of releases ago. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of our time today. Again, thank you very, very much for spending 45 minutes out of your busy day. If you have any questions, you can certainly send them to the organizer of this webinar, and we can follow them up. I apologize for not having my email address up on the screen. It's my first and last name, so John Easton at maximizer.com, if any of you would like to send me an email as well. Okay, so thank you again, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.